Here, you're just Scottish, that's it, the bottom line, you're just Scottish. We don't say white Scottish and black Scottish. That's not the way that it is here. It never has been that way here. If it has been, I've never seen. How would we know because we're white? Well, we live here and it's a lived experience, right? So I just feel like it's a very American way of thinking and it's just not the way that it is over here. I turned the comments off in that video because it's just becoming a really toxic space. There was no malice behind what I was saying. If I've came across as racist, which a lot of people have said in the comment section, then I apologise for that. It was never meant to be that way. I wasn't trying to centre myself in the conversation. I literally just wanted to ask if the black community within Scotland wanted to be referred to as black Scottish or just Scottish, because it's not a conversation that we've ever had to my knowledge up here. So that was the only reason that I wanted to make the video and to ask, just to clear a few other things up, because it's came up a few times within the comment section, me saying that I found the question of do white people like black people in Scotland problematic, and I'm going to say problematic because that's what I've said in the last video, but the reason that I said that, there's a few reasons for it, right? And I feel like explaining myself is just going to make it worse and it's going to bring more toxicity to the conversation, but I just want you to know from my perspective where I was coming from with that. So the first and initial thing was that the comment was on a video, right, and then within the comment section a lot of white Scottish people, which I now understand you didn't want it from our perspective, I totally respect that, it's absolutely fine, but it's what initially triggered me. So there was white Scottish people in the comment section saying, no, it's a friendly country, like come and visit, you'll love it, we don't judge based on skin colour here. That's not to say that everybody is like that, because there are racist people in this country, there's no denying that. I never once denied that in the video. I just basically said the people who do focus on skin colour are generally racist, but that was the initial trigger, because I felt like the Scottish people were just trying to be friendly and trying to be reassuring, and they were getting pushed out of the conversation. But I now understand you wanted it from a black perspective. Absolutely fine, right, not got a problem with that. The next reason is within the UK at the moment, not so much in Scotland, but within the UK as a whole, we have a massive issue with political parties and the media trying to separate us based on race and skin tone and where we're from. So the question to me from a white perspective, not from black people travelling and from a safety perspective, from a white perspective living in this country, the question to me felt a bit divisive, because we've already got people over here who are trying to separate us based on skin colour, right? So that's why I personally didn't like it. I maybe shouldn't have been triggered by that, and if that makes me racist for feeling that way, then I've obviously got work to do, right? That's absolutely fine. But that was one of the reasons, because I was never brought up that way. I was never brought up to like or dislike somebody based on what colour their skin was, and I know that probably does make me maybe tone deaf, maybe naive. I don't know. Naive, I would say, is probably a good way to look at it, because I know that not everybody in the country has been brought up like that, and not everybody feels that way, even if they've been brought up differently, whatever they might now, because of the political climate, feel that way. And that's when you're getting all these comments about go back to your own country. Like I seen the video of the girl on the train, and I feel like that is becoming more of a thing. It's always been there, but it's becoming more of a thing now because of the way that politicians speak, and it's not just affecting people who are immigrating here currently, it's people who have been born here, who have lived here for generations. It's now spilling over onto these people as well. So from my perspective, looking at the UK as a whole, like from a political point of view, I found it divisive, but I now know that wasn't the intention behind the question, and that's fine. Like, that's on me. I'm happy to admit that I was wrong there, but just to make it clear, that's why I found it a bit divisive. It wasn't meant in a way of saying black people aren't allowed to ask questions. That wasn't the intention at all. So yeah, I'll leave it there, and I'll leave the comments off because I don't want it to be a toxic conversation. It wasn't meant to be that way. I just wanted to know if the black community in Scotland wanted to be known as Black Scottish or just Scottish. That was the only question that I wanted answered. And if it's came across as hurtful or racist or anything like that, just know that that wasn't the intention of the video. So yeah, I'll leave the comments off for now, but yeah, sorry if it's offended anybody.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So guys, this love between Black Americans and Black Scottish is getting to a lot of people. People are having mixed reaction and some people are being bitter. So there's this girl, a Scottish white girl, that made a video about Black Scottish and telling them that they should not come on the internet and be identifying themselves as Black Scottish, because there's nothing like black, that they are just Scottish. That the idea of being black is American idea, that if they are identifying as Black Scottish, that is so very American, and it is making Scottish look like a racist country. And this got a lot of black people upset. She took the video down and made an apology video, but a lot of people are still responding to her, including white Scottish. So I will let you hear public opinion on this issue, then I'll come back to give you my own opinion.
Wanted to be referred to as Black Scottish or just Scottish, because it's not a conversation that we've...
Sweetheart, let me tell you something with dignity. A number of the Black Americans on this app were not aware that they are black people in Scotland. Some of them were not aware that they are black folks in Wales. And that is why I'm encouraging a Black Welsh TikTok. I do not come from Wales, I come from England. Because it will be nice for them to connect with people of colour from that country. It was not for you to say that, oh, they shouldn't be referred to as Black Scottish, just Scottish. Black Scottish is a reasonable term to address someone from Scotland, especially when they come from America. They are happy that they have found their cousins in Scotland. It really wasn't for you as a Caucasian person to say, oh, don't use such terminologies. In your country of Scotland, people do see colour. I've known since I was a little kid that there are black people in Scotland, and I was very aware of the racism that happens there. To put it bluntly, how can you be oblivious to it? Okay, you've said your apologies, fair enough, but you can't turn a blind eye to the discrimination and hatred which happens in Scotland. I'm just saying.
So obviously in the last couple of days we've just found out that the Americans didn't know that there was Black Scottish.
So this is really interesting. I'm pretty sure I've seen the exact video that this person's talking about, where the American was like, do white Scottish people like Black Scottish people? Obviously, that's not really a conversation that I need to be a part of, but what I think is really interesting is that it highlights a bit of what I think is quite prevalent in like contemporary Scottish culture, in that a lot of these comments were saying stuff like, we don't see black or white, if you live in Scotland, you're Scottish, if you're Scottish, all that sort of thing, where I think Scottish people like to believe that we're very progressive, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that our cultural identity is a large part of it anyway, I think, is on this basis that we are not English, that we are more accepting the English. And I think that comes from this sort of misconception that Scottish people were oppressed and that we suffered at the hands of the English the same as the rest of the world. And that's not really correct. But I think what it's led to is this culture that we believe it's okay to say things like, we don't see black or white because it looks more progressive than the country that we're attached to, where actually, if we wanted to be that progressive, we should be acknowledging that a lot of black voices in Scotland talk about how the racism is different, but still here. Of course it's still here. There was a video that I seen earlier of one of the Black Scottish creators, and one of the comments was just basically saying, oh, you're not Scottish, like you just happen to have ended up here. This guy's obviously Scottish. There's no doubt that this guy is Scottish. So that level of racism still exists in Scotland. But I think it's really interesting to see this dynamic in play of, we really think we aren't. We really think we've built a very progressive society because we are a bit more kinder to migrants, a bit more accepting of different identities in our country. But ultimately, it's kind of highlighting the performative nature of Scottish progressiveness.
Breaking news you can use, folks. You're going to want to hear this. This is Elle Mac, a Scottish lass. Apparently, Karenism is not just an American trait. Some call her the red-haired Karen demon, but I call her Scar Armpit because of the obvious. Or sunburned titties, also because of the obvious. She's what I call a proper redbone because her orange-haired species have the lightest skin. Too pale for protection, so the sun seeps right through and puts a nice red colour on her very skeleton. Elle Mac here had a lot to say about Black Americans and Black American ignorance. She believes that Black Americans are really so ignorant that they were unaware of Black Scot existence. She's not the only one, but it doesn't show Black American ignorance like they think. It shows their ignorance. But that's what happens when you put your underweight nose all into black business. She's cut the comments off. It was too much for her, or the backlash. And this video is her explaining how she doesn't understand the reaction that she received in her comment section, because all she wanted to say was there was no racism and we Scotland. Well, as you can see, her video backfired. That's why her hair is that unnatural orange, and her chest showing clear signs of future skin melanoma. Unfortunately, it's too late for her to backpedal, but if she could, I believe she'd find a happy place with the British. The white Scots have a lot in common with the white British. Hopefully, the black Scots don't have a lot in common with the black Brits. But apparently it's starting to look like that. Yes, Queen, shut your eyes and don't look at all the mess that you've caused yourself. This has been Scottish Crystal Black with news you can use.
You know, Elaine the Pain and Englanders like her are jealous of Black Americans because you see these Black Scottish humans and the interviews they're getting, and now they feel like they have more of a community. Now their thought process has been going deeper because real Black Americans are not indoctrinated to the extent of other Black humans or non-Black humans outside of the USA and within the USA. But like Roy Woods Jr. has been going to Scotland and interviewing these people, and a young lady was just saying, like, before Black America got involved, they didn't have a community, and now they have a community. That's the power of Black America. That's why a lot of you non-Black humans are jealous of them, because you don't have that same effect. And you don't have that same effect because you guys are literally, your minds are owned by the system. You are, like I said, sons and daughters of the government, as opposed to Black Americans whose families have been here for generations, they are not. They're the reasons you have your freedoms, and you guys need to respect that. They're the reasons we have our freedoms. But you have to understand what we do here in the USA affects the entire globe. That's why our voting is so important. That's why when we vote horrible people in like Trump, look at all the European countries now. Look at all the horrible white people in your countries now acting up, right? Which Black America has been trying to warn us about. But the thing about you Black humans in England, and I've seen some in Africa or from Africa in the USA, you guys align with white supremacy, and you won't ever be on that same level of Black America unless you kill your ego and your pride and listen to them. You think because you know your grandparents are from here or there, that makes you different, yet you don't hear Black America when they say, I know where my grandparents are from, and my great-grandparents, and my great-great-grandparents, and my great-great-great-grandparents. They're all from America, and the fact that you guys can't accept that is fucking weird. So now the world can see by how Black America is treated by Black humans in England. That is how they're treated by the white humans in the USA and the non-Black communities, non-white communities who are jealous of Black America, because the communities who are not Black American do not have any impact in our country except for a negative impact, as to where Black America has the most positive impact. So that's why white America, the majority of white America, is always projecting exactly who they are onto Black America. Black Americans have so much soul, they cause this beautiful ripple effect. And every time our country tries to shut them down, we go through hell in our country, because we're not supposed to be doing that. So I hope the world can see that Black America is not the movies and TV shows that you watch.
I'm pissing myself at Americans discovering that there are Black Scottish people. Pissing myself. Like, see that boy, Starboy Fitness? He kind of looks like Idris Elba. Good looking fella, you know, he's for Glasgow. And he obviously does fitness stuff, I presume, right? He just pops up on my For You page sometimes. And one of his videos have gone viral, and they're going wild, absolutely going wild for him, and then they're searching for other Black Scottish creators. But the funny thing is, quite a few of them have said the words African American in the comments, and I'm like, he's not American.
Ooh, hold on, because I know y'all saw that white Scottish woman come up on this app, right? And she had a lot to say, and it was a lot. I took notes, girl. So we gonna dive into it. I'm gonna be respectful and address her by her name. I think her page is called LMAC, so I'm gonna just address her as L. So we're gonna go down this little list here that I have, okay? So number one, you said that you are just now realizing that Black Americans are discovering that there are Black Scottish people, and that you found the comments in some of these videos problematic. And you said you thought the comments were problematic because you saw Black Americans asking the Black folk of Scotland if white people like Black folk over there. Essentially, is it racist there? And you said, don't do that, don't do that. Pause. Because you are not understanding the context behind why that conversation is being had, why those questions are being asked. You see, we as Black Americans understand that anti-Blackness is global. And Black Americans love to travel. We love to experience the world and see other cultures. And we love to recognize our cousins in every corner of the earth. But we also have to be mindful that we cannot travel everywhere safely. Not every place is safe for Black folk to visit, which is why we ask this question to gauge whether it is safe. A lot of us would like to leave America, and so if we happen to pick a place like Scotland or like Wales or like Japan, whatever the case may be, we are going to ask the Black people who live there and experience life daily as a Black person within that society whether it is safe for Black people to come into and live. That is not an answer for white people to answer. That is not an answer for anyone non-Black living in these places to answer. But you decided to take it upon yourself to answer the question and say, I've never seen it in my 34, 37, whatever age you said, years of life. Of course you haven't, because you're a white woman. Why would you see or experience anti-Black racism as a white woman? Just because you haven't experienced it does not mean it's not real or happening. It just doesn't happen to you because you are not affected. So the people in the comments saying, girl, how would you know? You're white. They're not wrong. And yes, it is an American way of thinking because we have been racialized, demonized, dehumanized, and terrorized for generations. That is the society we live in. We live in a society where everywhere we look is anti-black, to where we had to have a handbook called the Green Book to tell us where it was safe to travel in the United States. Did you know that? So yes, we are going to take that mentality because we are on the defense. We are in a constant state of hyper-awareness and self-preservation because of our lived experiences, because we have to be. And we're going to carry that with us when we travel into new places. And we are going to ask our cousins, the black folk over there, what it's like and if it is safe for us to enter into. Because who would know better than them? Why would we ask a white woman? Then you also said the only people I ever hear living in Scotland bringing up race are the racists. Oh, so there are racists in Scotland then. But you said you haven't experienced it. Right, because you haven't experienced it. You have heard it in passing and most likely have said nothing because it doesn't affect you. Because you like to say, well, I don't see it that way. I don't separate. They're just Scottish. They've always been here. They're just Scottish. But what you're doing when you do that is you are completely erasing the experience they have as being a melanated person living in a white-dominated society. You are minimizing their experience and possible trauma that they are going through by being black in these places. Just because you don't experience it or it doesn't affect you does not mean it's not happening. And it's weird that you're here trying to silence the voices of the people who are telling you it does, because we see you in your comments only liking the comments of white people who agree with you or the comments of people who are making you feel comfortable in your already way of thinking. That makes it feel like you're not really in this to learn anything. You weren't in this conversation to actually have a mind-breaking experience. You just wanted someone to affirm how you already thought and feel. You wanted to be coddled. You didn't actually want to listen to the experiences of black Scottish people or black Americans for that matter. And you said differentiating between black Scots and just Scottish or any other British identity allows for the racists to come in and say, well, they're not white, so they don't belong. They need to go back to where they came from. Bookie, that's already happening. You just don't hear it or see it. I came across a video today of a black Scottish girl who was on the transit and a white Scottish woman told her to go back to her country. So again, we ask the question, do they like black folk over there? Is it racist over there? That is not a question that a white woman anywhere can answer. This is a conversation between the black diaspora, the black community. No matter where we're from, we are always going to seek information from each other through our lived experiences. We are always going to believe and listen to what those experiences have learned. And when they tell us the information, we are going to sift through it and apply it to how we experience life here and how we would experience life if we go there. Because again, we are always in a state of hyper-awareness and self-preservation because we have had to be. Because anti-blackness is global. I understand that you said, well, I don't want it separated. I want us all to just be Scots. And that would be great. But that's not how the world works. That's not how it works with racialization and colonization and global anti-blackness. That's just not reality. Yes, those people are Scottish. Absolutely, because that's their nationality. They were born there. But their experience is still black because that is their race. You don't experience life like a black Scottish person experiences life. Just like white Americans don't experience life like black Americans experience life. And it's clear that you did not have the context about American society or about the experience of black people as a whole or black culture to come into this conversation because the question wasn't directed at you, and yet you still found a way to center yourself and your opinion within it. That is you leading with your whiteness instead of leading with empathy and understanding, because that's something that whiteness finds very hard to do. So sit back, let us speak to our cousins, let us have a black ass conversation, and you just go on about your day and be happy. Keep on smiling, keep on loving people. But let's not erase and minimize the experience of people who do not look like you.
So obviously in the last couple of days we've just found out that the Americans didn't know that there was black Scottish people in Scotland, right? But the comment sections for me are just a little bit problematic. Do white people like black people over there? And that doesn't really sit right with me. Like, don't do that. Of course we like them because they're just normal human beings living their life. Like, don't do that. We don't differentiate here. You're just Scottish, that's it, the bottom line. You're just Scottish. We don't say white Scottish and black Scottish. That's not the way that it is here. It never has been that way here. If it has been, I've never seen. How would we know because we're white? Well, we live here and it's a lived experience, right? So I feel like it's a very American way of thinking and it's just not the way that it is over here.
Americans discovered this week that black Scottish people exist and that they're real. And there's this mutual love going back and forth between black Americans and black Scots. And in the comment sections, black Americans are asking the black Scottish people, is it safe for us to come over there? How do they treat you over there? How's life over there? And I've seen several videos like this from white Scottish people where they're saying, we don't do race over here. People are just Scottish. We don't differentiate. Trust me when I say this to you, every black person in the world that lives in an either European or mainly white country knows that they're black. They have experienced microaggressions, macroaggressions. They have been called names. They have been made to feel other. They do feel othered, right? Whether it's super racism, a blatant racism like America, or it's covert racism like it is in the UK. The UK is a very apathetic place where they're told not to bring up things and not to be too boisterous, not to voice your opinion too much. Whereas in America, we talk our shit directly. And that's one thing I can say about everywhere I've lived in the world. Even though America is a racist place and has its issues, we still call out racism when it happens to us in the moment. Whereas a lot of places don't. But what's most intriguing to me is like, it's a white woman saying that black people asking black people if the country they live in likes black people is a very American way of thinking. It's not an American way of thinking. It's a skin folk way of thinking. You will never know what it means to be black in this world and be othered and be one of the most hated groups of people just based on what we look like. And let's not forget, you're in Europe. Europeans invented racism. So therefore, definitely you may be an advanced person and you love everyone and you have black Scot friends, Asian Scot friends, but the Scottish people in Scotland are black British. That's their classification. Just like the Asian people in Scotland are Asian. Just like the Arabs in Scotland are Arab. So I don't see color. We don't do that over here. Vibe. It doesn't fly when it comes to black people because you'll never know what it means to be black. Also, just let black people talk to black people without y'all chiming in. This is you don't need to be a part of this conversation. Let black people talk to each other and let it be fun. To all the black Brits out there mad that black people discovered Scottish people, shut up.
I understand why people are mad. I understand the reason why a lot of people were mad at her to the point that she deleted the video. Number one, she's a white person. She may not know black experience. Not like she may not know. A white person can never know a black person's experience. Like no matter what, if you're not a black person, you can never know what black people are passing through. It does not matter whether you have black friends or not, whether you are married to a black person or not. If you're not living in this same skin that I'm living, you don't know what we are passing through. So you do not have the right to come and tell black people their experience. I feel like she coming to tell black Scottish that you guys should stop saying that you guys are facing racism in Scottish because there's no racism in Scottish. And also you do not need to identify as black because here we are all Scottish. I feel like that is so very unnecessary video to put out. But I love the fact that she took the video down and apologized. This is also what I say when we are talking about living in China. I'm sorry to bring this up, but when we are talking about black experience in China, Chinese people will do everything to tell you there's no racism in China. There's no racism in China. You cannot know if there's racism or not. This is the reason why I say in one of the videos I uploaded about white people, how they treat white people and how they treat black people in China. I say, if you want to know real experience of black people, sit them down, make them feel comfortable and ask them what their experience is. If you see an honest person, that person may tell you her honest truth and how she feel. Yes, there's no racism in China, just like the way it is in the US. But that does not mean that there's no racism at all in China. Also, this also applies to Scotland, there are some things that black people may be facing. You as a white Scottish, you may not know because you're not a black person. I feel like she stepped on many toes by coming to tell black Scottish not to say that there's racism. I really wish that people will always give black people chance to talk about their experience, because only when we talk about our experience, that is when people learn. But guys, I want to know your opinion in the comment section. Do not forget to subscribe, like, comment. Guys, there's new feature YouTube bring that you can actually click to help me boost this video. So if you watch this far, please help me boost the video, and let me see you in my other one.